You eat, and yet the emptiness remains. That's because the hunger you're trying to satisfy doesn't live in your stomach. It lives in your soul. You can fill your plate. You can choose slower. You can follow every diet rule written, but if your heart is aching, no amount of food will silence it. The truth is, most people don't eat because they're hungry. They eat because they're lonely. They eat because they're overwhelmed. They eat because something inside them is screaming to be seen, and food is the only thing that's never judged them. This isn't gluttony. This isn't weakness. This is survival. Your body has learned to translate silence into snacks, abandonment into sugar, and anxiety into late-night cravings. But here's the thing. The more you feed the soul's hunger with food, the louder the emptiness becomes. Because the soul doesn't want calories. It wants connection. It wants safety. It wants love that isn't conditional on the size of your body. And until you understand this, you'll keep feeding the wrong hunger and wondering why you're still starving. No one ever taught you that grief can taste like chocolate. That anger can disguise itself as a craving. That every bite you take might be your body's way of screaming, "Please, help me feel something else." Because somewhere along the way, your pain had no place to go. You were told to be strong, to stay quiet, to smile through it. So your pain found another exit: your appetite. Now, every time a memory resurfaces, you reach for food. Not because you're weak, but because food never judged you. It never left. It never shouted back. And so pain transformed itself into hunger. A hunger that isn't asking for fuel. It's asking for validation. It's asking for healing. But nobody told you that. They blamed your discipline. They said you don't want it bad enough. But the truth is, you've just been trying to treat emotional wounds with physical solutions. And that's why nothing changes. Because until the real pain is addressed, your body will keep calling for help the only way it knows how: through hunger. Every time you open the fridge without knowing why, every time you eat past fullness and still don't feel satisfied, you think it's about food. But it's not. You're not looking for flavor, you're looking for safety. Food became your safe space. When the world felt unpredictable, food was consistent. When people failed you, food showed up. When emotions became too big to name, food gave you something to control. So now, when stress hits, when anxiety creeps in, when loneliness shows up uninvited, you don't reach for connection. You reach for cookies. Not because you're addicted, but because that's how your nervous system learned to self-soothe. You weren't taught emotional regulation. You weren't given tools. You were given silence and snacks. So your craving is not for salt or sugar. It's for safety. And until you create that safety from within, you'll keep searching for it in a bag of chips. But here's the truth. Safety doesn't come from food. It comes from finally listening to what your emotions are trying to say. You keep saying, "I can't stop eating." But the truth is, you're not addicted to food. You're addicted to the silence it brings. Every bite pushes the pain a little deeper. Every chew muffles the scream inside your chest. Every full stomach is a way to avoid a heart that feels too empty. This isn't about discipline. It's about defense. You learn to use food the way others use alcohol, scrolling, or isolation. To escape. To disappear. To go numb. Because when you eat, for a moment, you don't feel abandoned. You don't feel ashamed. You don't feel anything at all. And that's the point. You never learn to sit with the ache, so you try to swallow it. But pain doesn't go away just because you bury it under meals. It waits. It festers. It grows heavier inside you until your body starts to carry the weight your heart can't. You're not broken. You're protecting yourself the only way you were taught. But now, it's time to stop numbing and start listening. You think it's just weight, but it's not. It's protection. It's memory. It's the armor your body built when your heart had no other place to put the pain. You weren't weak, you were overwhelmed. And because you couldn't scream, couldn't cry, couldn't run, your body stepped in. It held the sorrow. It absorbed the stress. It stored the emotions you were never allowed to feel. Every pound became a story. Every layer became a boundary. Not against the world, but against the pain you weren't ready to face. And now, when you look in the mirror, you don't just see fat, you see years of silence. You see nights you swallowed tears. You see a soul that has been fighting to be heard, but only found space inside your skin. This weight is not failure. It's the evidence that you survived what tried to destroy you. But you don't have to carry it forever. Not if you finally let your heart speak. Because once the emotion is released, the body lets go too. You've tried the plans, the rules, the programs with perfect names and empty promises. But they all focused on what to eat. And never once asked, what's eating you? Because no diet talks to grief. No calorie count can reach your inner child. No workout burns the weight of abandonment. So you followed every step, but your soul stayed untouched. You lost a few pounds, maybe? But the silence? The emptiness? The ache beneath your ribs? Still there. You were never just hungry for food. You were hungry for peace. For love? For forgiveness? For someone to say, it makes sense you feel this way. And until that hunger is fed, until the pain is acknowledged, your body will keep holding on. Not because it hates you, but because it's waiting for you to finally choose healing over punishment. And once you do, everything changes. Because when you treat the wound, the symptom stops needing to protect you. You've spent years saying it's your fault, that you're lazy, undisciplined, weak. But what if none of that was ever true? What if the weight isn't your failure, but your body's way of screaming what your voice couldn't? You blamed yourself for coping the only way you knew how. You punished the symptom while ignoring the wound. And in doing so, you became your own enemy instead of your own protector. But healing doesn't come from shame. It doesn't grow in guilt. It begins the moment you stop pointing fingers inward and start holding your own heart with care. You didn't choose this pain, but you can choose to stop passing it forward. You can choose to break the cycle, not by starving your body, but by feeding your soul. When compassion replaces control, when softness replaces self-hate, when you finally ask, what am I really needing right now? That's when the weight begins to fall. Not just from your body, but from your life. And that's not weakness. That's liberation.